What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Drew Hoover, and today we're going to be talking about the vertical offense, aka the Air Coryell offense. And I must say, these last two playbooks, the West Coast and the Air Coryell offense, I've learned a lot of new things. I have enjoyed it, and hopefully I can do it justice when I'm teaching it to you. If you haven't subscribed to your Average Joe Sports Network, please click that subscribe button. Also, if you have any graphic design needs, Anthony Garcia is your man. His link is in the description below, www.anthonygarciadesign.com. Without further ado, let's get right into this. The Air Coryell offense, named after their head coach, Don Coryell, who started coaching at San Diego State, where he won 80% of his games. Then his first NFL coaching job with the St. Louis Cardinals before they became the Arizona Cardinals. And then eventually accepting a coaching job for the San Diego Chargers, and he brought that vertical offense with him. And when you talk about the Air and Air Coryell offense, obviously that means passing the ball deep down the field was his number one priority, and a lot of his formations really allowed for mismatches to happen and for people to really get open down the field. When you talk about the motion play, which is a huge part of this offense, when a wide receiver can move from one side of the field to the other, make the defense adjust, therefore giving the quarterback an idea of what the defense is going to do, whether it's zone, whether it's man. We talked about the use of personnel. Kellen Winslow, who was a tight end, one of the best tight ends to ever to play the game, who was one of the first tight ends to be used in the slot or at the wide receiver position. Kind of similar to what you're seeing with Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida, who was drafted by Atlanta. He was one of the first guys to do that, and Kellen Winslow. They also did that with running backs and their fullbacks. Pretty much, like I said, finding mismatches along that side right there. And then finally, even if you had to put 4 or 5 wide receivers on that line of scrimmage to stretch that defense out, he was willing to do that. And so when you have this kind of offense, this kind of vertical offense, you need a guy with a strong arm, and that is where Dan Fouts, the quarterback, comes in. A quarterback who's a Hall of Famer, and unfortunately, like Dan Marino, didn't end his career with the Super Bowl victory. But when you look at his stats, he definitely deserved a Hall of Fame induction, and his stats really show the effectiveness of the Air Coryell offense. Let's start in 1979. In 1979, Dan Fouts threw for 4,082 yards and 24 touchdowns. Then that number skyrocketed in 1980 with 4,715 yards and 30 touchdowns. And then finally, 1981, throwing for 4,802 yards, which is an NFL record at the time, and 33 TDs. And like I said, when you talk about this kind of offense with these kind of numbers, 40 years ago, this was ahead of its time. And like I said, a lot of it had to do with the weapons they had. Like I said, I mentioned Kellen Winslow, one of the best tight ends to ever play the game. Charlie Joyner, John Jefferson. He was only there for 3 years, but he had one of his best years there. And then when they traded him to Green Bay, then they went on and traded for another receiver from New Orleans, and Wes Chandler. And like I said, with the use of their personnel, that means the running backs were involved, which means they used guys like Chuck Muncie and James Brooks. All this, so like I said, they could attack the ball vertically down the field. And with those wide receivers, like I said, when you talk about running their routes, Don Coryell, like Bo Walsh, would plan things out, even giving wide receivers a second and third option depending on what the defense was. Again, this sounds complicated, but let's get into some of those plays that made the Air Coryell offense one of the most explosive offenses in NFL history. And this is what we call the base Z drive. Z meaning zip. Zip formation is just another version of Bill Walsh's split formation. Again, 2 backs that are 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. Let's go from left to right. Let's just say X is Wes Chandler. Again, the wide receiver they acquired from the New Orleans Saints when they gave away John Jefferson This guy made a lot of acrobatic catches similar to Lynn Swann for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this guy is going to run a 9 route or a go route simply. And if you look at Eric Coryell's playbook, he had pages upon pages of wide receiver trees. Some of them were numbered. And, we can't get to all the routes, unfortunately, in this segment. But, like I said, he's got everything planned out for these wide receivers. And you look at this H-back right here, this could be a Chuck Muncie, which they traded for and replaced Hank Bauer. They also drafted a James Brooks. And again, these were wide receivers that could be used similar to a wide receiver or a slot wide receiver, wherever there's a mismatch. In this case, he's going to stay right where he's at, and he's going to be asked to run a corner route and go 30 yards deep. But as you can see, there's these two right here. That is his second and third option. And what he tells him in his playbook is that if the player defending him is running man, then just go deep. But if he runs any sort of zone, then he has to adjust. Now if he runs a deep zone right here, then that's where the second option comes here, where he just runs flat towards the sideline, which is pretty much an out. And then you got your third option right here. If he runs just a simple zone right here and he stays there, then your third option is to do a hitch or comeback route right here. So quarterbacks, like I said, hopefully will read all this, and this is where the quarterback and your wide receiver have to be on the same page. They both have to know what the coverage is doing, and both have to know what the route is, so the quarterback can throw it ahead, throw the wide receiver open. So like I said, hopefully if this ends up being this option for some reason, let's say the go route is gone, and let's say this is not a man right here, then these two guys have to be on the same page if he ends up being that option right there. And you got your fullback or your returning running back right here. He's just going to do a base protection, but let's just say all his options are gone. If he reads the play and sees that he needs another option, then he tells him just to run flat as a last resort. Then you have your tight end, Kellen Winslow, like I mentioned before. A lot of favorable formations for him will be either in a slot or at a wide receiver position, like I said, to find a mismatch to a lot of those smaller corners. But let's just say in this case he's on the line of scrimmage and he's just going to run a simple cross pattern, go 12 yards deep, and then run towards the middle of the field. And then finally we have wide receiver Z, Charlie Joyner, a guy that was in the NFL for 19 years, spent 11 of it with the San Diego Chargers. May not have been one of the fastest wide receivers, but he was definitely one of the best route runners on this team, which he had to be, because in this case, this is a motion play right here. The first motion play we've seen. He's going to go in motion before the snap. The quarterback will indicate the motion either through a keyword, or a lot of quarterbacks will stomp the right foot as an indicator that he's going to be in motion. And as he goes in motion, then all of a sudden the defense has to adjust to what they're doing. And when you look at this, when he gets to this spot right here, all of a sudden they got to worry about, what's their priority, who are their primary targets. And it happens so fast that by the time he gets to this point, quarterback says hi, does a 7-step drop, and you got a guy potentially maybe going this way and then that way and then going vertically up the field. And all of a sudden you might have multiple options available right here. But when he gets right here, Charlie Joyner is going to run a shallow crossing route, which is about 5-6 yards deep. And so that's just a taste of the vertical offense right here. Maybe not more vertical in this case, but like I said, more of the route running and the motion that gets players open. Like I said, helps the quarterback know what defense they're going to run and where to drop off the ball. Let's go through another play. Next, we have what's called the kick Willy. Now, you got this quarterback faking the handoff for play action, and play action pretty much means, like I said, having the defense believe that this is going to be a handoff. And then by the time he pulls that ball out and rolls back around it for the pass, Hopefully he's going to pull some of this down, especially those linebackers in the middle. So he's going to do the play action, and this back is just going to run a block right here. Same thing with the tight end. So all we have are 3 options right here. You got X with your go route or 9 route again, and then you have your slot receiver, which, by the way, I mentioned before about strong side and weak side. In a formation like the split option, the tight end would usually be the strong side indicator. But in this case, with the third wide receiver, with a slot wide receiver, now he is the indicator of the strong side and weak side. So strong side right here, you've got slot receiver H, and he's going to run a deep crossing route. In the previous play, we referred to a shallow crossing route, which is only 5-6 yards deep. Now this is a deep crossing route, about 15 yards deep. And then finally we got wide receiver Z. He's going to be running what he calls a big 8, which in this case looks like a post route. And he also has a plan B, as you can see right here. He tells the wide receiver, hey, if you go up into the top of your route and you notice they're running cover 2, when you get up here, turn it into a corner route. So from 15 yards deep, run the post route unless it's a cover 2, and then run it back towards the sideline. So again, this is a little less complicated, but again, it just shows how they can attack the ball vertically down the field right here. Either way, at minimal, you're probably going to get a 15-yard gain. Either get a big catch down the field here or get a big catch on top of this post route. Let's do one more play. And finally, we have the jet drive double Duke. And here's our 4 wide receiver layout right here. As a matter of fact, this slot receiver is actually going to be your tight end, Kellen Winslow, in the 2-point stance instead of being on the line with his hand to the ground. So you got your 4 options right here. The quarterback's going to do a 5-step drop, do a play action. The running back's going to do an initial base protection right here. And then when the time comes, when the coast is clear, he's going to do a simple check down and wait up here 5-6 yards deep. And then you got your outside wide receivers on the sideline. They're going to run jukes, which means they're going to head towards the middle of the field almost as if they're going to run like a slant. But then they're going to change direction and head back towards the sideline. And then your slot wide receivers or your slot tight end, they're going to run corner routes 14 yards deep and then head their way towards the sideline. And this is what they call layering your options. Probably a typical approach to defense right here would be zone. So imagine, let's say this guy just runs a short zone right here and stays in this pocket right here. Then both these wide receivers, instead of heading back to the sideline at the top, they're told to just stay right there, and then the quarterback will meet them right there. Again, the quarterback and the wide receiver being on the same page and both knowing what the coverage is. And then, like I said, the way they're layering these wide receivers out, perhaps they can cover the underneath route, and like I said, this corner route off the top might be all by himself. Even if the safety notices it and tries to close in on it, probably by that time, like I said, throwing ahead of his route, he's probably already got it for a first down. So again, seems like a very simplistic play. But again, the way they're stretching out the defense right here and layering their options and, like I said, giving their offense opportunities to advance the ball down the field. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but really this Eric Coryell offense was revolutionary. When you talk about the offenses and the yards and the points they put up today, it's really on the foundation of the Eric Coryell offense. Even though we have spread offenses, they may not be technically Eric Coryell. When we talk about we have spread offenses that have variations with option plays and whatnot, with pistol formation, which we'll get to, like I said, the spread offense eventually. But the Eric Coryell offense really has revolutionized the game. And a prime example of this is the St. Louis Rams under Mike Martz, who started out as an offensive coordinator under Dick Vermeil. They won the Super Bowl during the 1999 season in 2000 against the Tennessee Titans. And they had players like Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, guys that could really stretch the ball vertically down the field. And then the way they used Marshall Faulk in multiple spots in the passing game. I mentioned Roger Craig as one of the first running backs to rush and receive for 1,000 yards. And then Marshall Faulk became the second guy and improved on that, including having an MVP season in, I think it was 2000 or 2001. And again, that's where they got the name, the West Coast, the greatest show on turf. So yeah, and I mentioned before, like I said, Kyle Pitts, the way he was used in Florida. I don't know if he'll be used in Atlanta under Arthur Smith, but the way he was used in Florida as a Florida Gator was just like the way they used Kellen Winslow. We'll talk about the spread offense eventually, and perhaps we'll even get to, like I said, some of the defensive philosophies as well. And have a good day, everybody.